Okay, so let's walk through a notability challenge and how everything ended up working out, because I pretty much got this thing down. So it's been about 10 days. I mean, I had a day that I couldn't touch it for like the entire day. It's been far from perfect, but still. In 10 days, I have managed 25. So, I'm averaging 2.5 per day, which is not quite the 3 per day I was going for, but I've had a few times where well, we'll go over the details here. So there's some different mistakes it's easy to make. For one, I can forget to fix my sliders over here. For two, I can forget to set this back to 250 because when I'm doing the wind up, I move it down to 1. Anyway, let's get this started. I also got made about 4,000 GP, which again is not the 510 average I thought I'd be getting per day, but that was if I did everything perfectly, which I don't. Sometimes I just literally don't have time to do the wind down after a run. Other times, I end up, just with a run being an hour or 2 hours longer than it should be, because I just can't get to a computer during a period of time because life is life. So, all things considered, I'm actually doing pretty good. It's actually I'm actually doing pretty good on this. I'm getting huge payouts on this run. By the time I hit 50, I'll have more GP than before I bought that creation count. And then it'll be time to invest in build speed. So here's how this works. I tried doing it a bunch of different ways. Trying to find the most efficient way to do this, but I just can't beat the strategy I'm going to show you here. So it comes with several key ingredients and some oddities. The first thing here is, my creation counts. They are very odd. I know they're very odd. Now, you won't see this until later, but all of these end up being perfect. How's it 1,056? Oh, right, because animals and humans. Right, of course. All of these. Okay, there's one unnecessary river. Everything else, I stop at forest. I stop at forests, and this is just about perfect for an hour and a half of creating. It creates everything down through the forest and then sits on shadow clone, because whatever you do, don't beat Eros. He'll mess you up. Don't beat him. Don't do it. Wait. You knock out all the way up to Artemis and then you stop, even if you're strong enough to beat more, and you let the whole run go through. You can just walk away. You come back an hour and a half later. You of course have to have it set to light. It'll make all the shadow clones. It'll make all the mountains, forests, everything through. You'll have exactly the right amount to build one of every type of monument, and then a whole bunch of statues and gardens. And every single thing will be perfect at 0. You'll have had the exact amount of resources for everything, except for the stupid river. And a little bit of stone and light. Why is there a little bit of stone and light left over? Well, this drove me crazy at first. I had it all set up, I'd figured it all out, it goes through, and I go to build my buildings, and I need 21 light. Why do I need 21 light? Fine, I adjust the number here, I add 21 to this, okay, there we go. I come back, I do the next run. How am I short 21 light again? I have enough light to build all the monuments, but then there's 21 short on the last one. What? How? So I adjusted again. And, so it took me a while to figure this out, you know, or I'd have excess light, and I'd, you know, oh, well, how do I get excess light? I'll just set it to be perfect again. Don't strive for perfection, because it's stupid. Here's what's going on. And it does not make a lick of goddamn sense. When I run idling to rule the gods on my laptop, it maths differently. Yes, I know that doesn't make any sense. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. It really, really doesn't make sense. But if I'm running this on the PC like I am now, I get slightly different numbers on the amount of stone and light that is produced or needed. I'm not even sure what is going on, or the amount used by these. I don't know. I literally don't know why. It doesn't happen to anything else. Just light and stone. I get slightly different values when I run it on this than when I run it on that. It doesn't make any sense to me. That literally, computers, they only do one thing. Math. They have to be very good at math. Exactly perfect at math. That's what computers are. And there it is. It literally. So all I did was I just finally said, screw it. And I threw some slop in. So there's like a few hundred light and a few hundred stone more than either one needs, either way. And that way I can swap it back and forth, and it just doesn't matter because it gives me the amount I need. It's not like it runs more time, really. I mean, I create 250 per fraction of a second. Why was I trying to be perfect with it? Just because? Just because of my pride? I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of comments telling me it's not possible, but I tested it, and I retested it, and I retested it, and it consistently happens. They need different numbers. Ow. My laptop's really not set up for recording. I probably should make just that as a video, just to demonstrate it, so I don't get too much shit on what you're saying doesn't make sense. Because what I'm saying doesn't make any damn sense to me. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. So, short version was, I just had ever so slightly more light and stone. It wasn't a big deal. It was just perplexing. So, these are what my stats are, if anyone's wondering. You could probably do this with lower stats. The end solution is pretty, the end result is pretty much the speed that I found at the start. I was never able to really make it faster than this. I mean, I suppose I could shave a couple minutes off if I was super attentive, but... So, the trick is... I'll just dump these here. We're now 8 minutes in. At 15 minutes, give or take a few seconds, I end my first run. It's just the best way. It's just the best way, because I can get some pretty nice multipliers. I should be able to take down Hathor on my first run. I can already get the 999% out of my pets, which is great. And that's really all you need, by the way. The pets are not as useful as you might think they would be. More on that later. But as long as you can get that 999%, I mean, you got this thing. That's, within a 15-minute window. That's the important bit. So, now eventually, this is going to finish. I'm not going to be able to I can't beat Diana in 15 minutes. I tried going long enough to beat Diana to get monuments, and it wasn't as efficient. I tried doing the first run. I've done different things. Sometimes I don't have time. You're going to do two 15-minute runs to get that 5.5 hour mark, and then it takes always 10 minutes for my clones to fill in. So that's 40 minutes. I don't always have 40 minutes at the start of a No Divinity challenge. So sometimes I just have to walk away from it and leave it running for an hour. For the same reason I don't always have time to do the wind down, which cuts into my GP gain, apparently by about 20%-ish, approximately over time. So, because I'm averaging about 400 a day instead of 510. Anyway, that be all that as it may. Be that as it may. Yeah. You need two 15-minute runs and then 10 minutes to get the shadow clones going. Then you come back every hour and a half, approximately, and nail this thing. There's another oddity. I swear, it's like a 2-minute difference in how long it takes all of these to finish on my laptop. My laptop takes like 2 minutes longer on a run to get through all of these, approximately, and it doesn't even seem 100% consistent. So I don't know what's up with that. Just weird things. Just weird things about this. Maybe my laptop just needs to be replaced. I mean, it is kind of old, and it has been through the ringer. And it has dealt with Alaskan weather. Maybe a few falls. But it still works, so I'm going to keep using it. I'm going to use it until it gives up the ghost. I just need to remember to back up my data. That's all. Anyway, right, so we're going to be doing the two 15-minute runs. Then from there, it just ends up being an hour-and-a-half run, another hour-and-a-half run, and a third hour-and-a-half run. And at the second hour-and-a-half run, there's always 3 of them left. And try as I might, I can't eliminate that last run. I've tried. I've tried different ways. I tried doing a third 15-minute run. I tried using multiplier and level campaigns, and I just can't quite shave it down. I could shave an hour and a half out of these challenges if I could do it. Yeah. And also trying to do 3 or 4 15-minute runs. I already told you, I don't always have time for 2. Trying to do 3 or 4 is really, like, you're stuck being active for, like, an hour and a half. It's terrible. So, I mean, it might be possible, but I wasn't, never quite got that. Alright. Oh, crud. I need to fix this again. Oh! I've been buying these. And I get to invest in another. Let's do that. Increase crystal power. Ho, ho, ho. Maybe as I gather more GP, like, I am becoming stronger with every run. Plus those little 1%. And I did gather a little bit of crystal power, as you might have noticed. Probably didn't notice. It's been a very small amount, but hey, any is more than I expected in this. Sometimes I go to bed and, well, I could start a new run, but I'm not going to spend 40 minutes doing the setup. Why don't I just gain some CP instead and leave it running overnight on no challenge? I do it sometimes. I said it wasn't perfectly efficient, but I think I get more out of the added GP and CP that way. Anyway, We're about to terminate this run. So that's pretty much all the ins and outs of this. Rely very heavily on the might I do. Maybe if I gather enough GP, maybe by the 50th run I'll be able to cut it down to closer to 4 hours. Wouldn't that be something? Okay. I really should finish that crit training. Do I have enough strength to take down Hathor right now? I think so. I do believe that I do. Now, on the question of spending GP, build speed does nothing. Creation speed honestly would do nothing. I'd spend almost the entire time making rocks, which are already as fast as possible. Everything past that is like 10 minutes or so for everything from soil to forests. 10 or 15. I'm not sure exactly how long it takes to get through the rest, but it's an irrelevantly small amount of time compared to making rocks. So, investing in either build or creation speed would do me no good in this at this point. I could invest in clone count, and I wouldn't mind making this a nice even number, but I think that I'm better off just hoarding my GP. I think it just works better for me, and then I can spend the GP on build speed on the when it's time for the 1K clone challenges. Okay, so there we go. So not perfectly efficient. Oh no, I wasted 1 minute and 5 seconds. I'm gonna finish this, finish that. Okay. Honestly, I don't even know why I fight the monsters. I can't use the divinity, and the way I have my stats, the battle does nothing, but it's an irrelevantly small number of clones, and I feel kind of weird if I don't. Okay, so this second 15-minute run is actually a little bit different from the first. You put it on stone, you're going to actually make monuments, but only, you don't get the upgrades. So you make as much stone, and you make some plant and water, because the Mystic Garden's worth 6 of the mighty statues. And, yeah. This second 15-minute run will yield a nice reward. You'll see. And there's one last important thing that I've been meaning to do, and I just now have the time to do it. Ho ho ho. The moment you've all been waiting for. Yeah, I'll stop there. Well, no, I need to do this. Hold on. We just need to do this real fast. Man. Every time I'm sitting here to do this, I find myself regretting that I didn't buy the, You know that the crit thing is actually useful? Think about how much power this is. This is like, between the losses on all of these, including this over here, we're losing, it'll get down to like 70. So we're losing quite a lot of damage potential when I'm doing the wind down and gathering GP. So if I had invested back into the where is it? This here, this 5%, I would actually be performing better on the wind downs. If you just beat one more, well, if and it's not enough to do this, but if it was the difference between beating one of these fellas and not beating them, what you would end up with is one more knockout, one more GP, and then on your next one you'd have higher stats because you beat another one, which would result in beating another one and another one anyway. It's not worthless is what I'm saying. It's just it has its narrow niche where it's good, where it's better than 1%, maybe. Unfortunately, it's not any good during the rest of the runs, so the 1% is more valuable during those. Or by 1%, I guess I mean 4% now. Anyway, alright. Story time! So, let's see. We have the succibi and the warp gate and Lamia. I've been wanting to read this for a while. I've just been busy. Wow, it's a fairly substantive one as well. The only thing we gotta do is keep our eye on what's going on. Okay. Year 9060. February. Warfield. While I was flying back to Fortitude, the majority of the time I was thinking about my next opponent. Lima. How are we going to pronounce this? You are lima beans. That's what you are. Who I had met back on Warfield. I had not fought her directly, but I could still sense her power. At that time, she was much stronger than I was. She easily controlled thousands of Dullahans without any problems. I alone clearly aren't... No, I thought about how I am able to control many more clones, but their numbers alone clearly aren't everything. I do create clones myself. They are connected to me inherently because of that. And I do have full control over them. I communicate with them through my mind, which means they follow orders without fail. The Dullahans, however, are different. I wouldn't have even been able to control a handful of them at once, never mind several thousands. How did she even make them listen to her orders? The Dullahans were headless, so they couldn't see or hear. Maybe she created them herself, just like I made my clones. But then it would have been weird to encounter so many Dullahans in all those different locations. When I fought them for my preparations against Poseidon, neither Lima nor I had known of each other's existence. You can clone yourself 5 million times, and every one of your clones is capable of thought. You know what you could do with that? If you went into the direction of science? My goodness. Think about what you could accomplish, what you could research. But she doesn't, of course. Hadriex. One moment. Alright, so after a while I stopped thinking about it. It didn't really matter much. After defeating Poseidon, my clones could easily defeat Dullahans. I also didn't gain much from fighting them anymore, so I thought I should find a way to improve myself further. It didn't take long until I arrived at Fortitude. I was really excited about the results of my divinity generator. It had been a while since I had left my clones to work on it, and I was looking forward to seeing how much divinity I gained. It was great! There was more divinity than I had ever collected before. Enough to improve all my monuments to a greatness never before imagined. This was probably also a much-needed step, as the power gap between Poseidon and Lamia were as immense as usual. Before the fight against Poseidon, I had only managed to upgrade my mighty statues and mystic gardens. This time I wanted to go farther and improve my tombs and lighthouses. But why, though? They don't do anything. You won't get any power from those, relatively speaking. What are you thinking? You don't know. You don't know yet. You need to get the monument past the lighthouse. The oceans from Poseidon seemed perfect for my lighthouses. For the tombs, I wanted to build a few villages. In these villages, there'd be people who could pray before the tombs, which would surely increase my power. The more people who believe in a god, the stronger he becomes. Especially considering I created these people myself. They'd have no reason to question their faith and would surely worship me. Yeah, okay. So, you're gonna go make a whole... Why don't you just make a shit ton of villages everywhere then? A shit ton of towns. Just make tons of people. Why bother making the monuments if that's all you need to become stronger? I created one village on the outskirts of my tombs. I let the people know that they would never run out of food so long as they kept praying at the tube every day. As I watched the people pray, I could feel a faint energy emitted from the tombs. not enough to increase my power. There were just not enough people. So, similar to my mighty statues, just one village was not enough. I went on to create 4 more villages until I could really feel the effect. It increased my attack power significantly. Before I had built the villages, I would have had to throw a heavy punch in order to destroy a mountain. But now, with my worshippers, I could do it with a single finger flick. Okay, now how are you going to explain the oceans? Are you going to make all the sea life worship you too? Fish people. We're going to become one of the old ones like Cthulhu. Okay. I really like Shadows over Innsmouth. It was his best. Just after I had done that, I noticed some of my power deplete. This kept me wondering for a while until I realized the mountain I just pulverized had belonged to those which powered my mighty statues. I thought you'd, stack the mountains and put the statue on top to display it from a higher vantage or something. But no, you just do mountains around it? Well, whatever. It's fine. Where'd it go? Yeah, destroying mountains on Fortitude wasn't my brightest idea, but I could easily replace it and everything would go back to normal. I took a break for a few days and proceeded to make an ocean. Oceans can be really huge and have enormous amounts of water, so creating one was certainly enough to improve my lighthouses. How big is Fortitude? I thought it was a little moon or something, or an asteroid. What was it again? Does it really have room for this, too? It just had to be big enough. I also didn't really want to convince Poseidon to sell me... Wait, you don't want to convince Poseidon to sell stuff to you? Why not? I buy from him all the time. So I created it myself. Besides, it wouldn't have been possible to transport a whole ocean. I buy them all the time! I mean, sure, Spacedom is really big. Big enough to handle a few villages worth of people, but an ocean or anything like that just wouldn't fit. I thought about how often I visited Fortitude and the planets where the other gods were. Traveling always took a lot of time. Well, you have a skill called teleport. I usually would put the time to good use by training, but still, a way to instantly visit the other gods, such as a portal that connected planets, would be a major convenience. Spacedom was able to use wormholes to skip distances and travel faster. These wormholes already existed in space. Why should it be possible to have something similar on Fortitude? You sure you want to do that? Because then everyone can find your little power-up world, and they can show up and smash all your stuff. Remember when you smashed Diana's tomb and she got pissed at you and you weakened her and beat her that way? You're opening yourself up to a weakness if you do this. Also, where's my portals tab? If we're getting portals, I want portals. I don't know what I'll use them for, but they'd be awesome. Alright. Anyway, we'll have a few more minutes. I spent a lot of time to research the wormholes with the data existing in Spacedom. Yes! Yes! Science! 5 million on science at once! And tried to create something similar with my creation power. I already created many things, so why not a warp gate? I started by theorizing a way to create small hand-sized gates. Beyond that, I would need more warp engines, since the data on Spacedom was all based on that. The warp engine on Spacedom was huge. It had to carry the whole spaceship. I needed a much smaller engine. It only had to carry one person. No, it has to carry oceans, remember? At the least, so I could visit other planets directly passing through one gate to another. That way other gods could go to Fortitude and make their creations at the place where I needed them. I mean, I paid them a lot of divinity, so delivering it directly to me should be a given. I just had to create such a possibility. While I was working on my warp gates, I used Spacedom to fly back to Warfield. I really like General Warfield. Sorry, StarCraft 2. I always think of StarCraft 2 when I see Warfield. I didn't need to be on fortitude for the research, and it was a good idea to search for more monsters which my clones could fight against to improve my battle power. When I arrived on Warfield, my warp gate research hadn't progressed much, but I was not in a hurry. I had all the time in the world, even if it would take me years to finish. On my last visit, I hadn't searched the whole planet, and the chances to find other monsters for my clones to fight were high. Why? Why are they high? Why do you assume there are more monsters on the world? About a half hour later, I found these female-looking monsters, each with 2 horns, 2 wings, and a tail. With 2. They were alluring, beautiful, and maybe dangerous? Succibi. Question. There's only one person who I think would make succubi. There's only one guy who would do that. There's nobody ahead on this list who would do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Childbirth and marriage. And death. Succubi? I usually associate succubi with marriage and death. Well, maybe death. Childbirth, though? I don't know. Whatever. A few of them are out in the open, but most of them seem to be in the cave. Wait a minute. Births exist in your universe? Everyone is like, no, the gods create everything. Yet we have one who's specifically into childbirth. So. What are the laws of physics again in this dimension? Okay, we gotta wrap this up. So I need plants. Okay, I need 1 million of you to go. Shoop. Awesome. Then we don't really need all that many mystic gardens. Just a few will do. One more for good measure. Okay. One more. Good grief. Alright, it's okay. We got this. Come on. Fill in. Ooh, I need more plant. There, that's enough plant matter. Okay, excellent. So I should be able to knock down at least one more off the backs of those monuments. And that makes my rebirth multipliers jump. Awesome. It's tempting to stay for one more, but it really won't help me in the long run because it would only matter if it would reduce the number of runs I needed by 1, and it won't. Like I said, I've tried this and that. It always comes down to needing that last run at the end. So, whatever. So from here, this is the first full-length run. I could just walk away as soon as I've loaded up my clones here, which takes 10 minutes. I could put these guys on a campaign and walk away. Now, the campaign, I end up doing an hour-long campaign. They get about... They don't always get the full 30 minutes on fighting clones, but I usually can manage that at least. That's why I have this number so ridiculously high. I'm giving them 5,000 clones each to work through. I end up putting 10 of them on a growth campaign. The pumpkin goes on a food campaign, and sometimes he gets a chocolate. I can't use the divinity. The item campaign wouldn't give me anything because they're just not high enough level to get real value out of that. And the level and multiplier campaigns are not going to help me reduce the number of runs. I've tried. So I actually end up running a God Power campaign. And I get, I don't know, but sometimes none, sometimes 5. I'd average it at about 2 to 3 per run out of this GP campaign. And it's, I don't know, it's almost nothing. Honestly, it's irrelevantly small. But there's nothing else I can do with my pets that matters. Like, there really isn't. I can't reduce the number of runs. I end up leaving 3 on a level up campaign just because I have a remainder of 3. If I had higher stats and could reduce the number of runs by 1. But I can't. So anyway. On my last visit, I hadn't searched the whole planet. Oh, yep. A few of them are out in the open, but most of them seemed to be in a cave. Once in a while, they would come outside, then fly somewhere else. I sent a few clones to see how they would react. As soon as the succubi noticed one of my clones, she flew towards it and kissed it? Kissed it? E.D.? It was a deep kiss. Afterwards, the clone followed her to the cave, as if in a trance. The clone didn't have a will of its own anymore and blindly followed the succubus. Other succubi did the same to my other clones that I sent out, and they never came back. Were they eaten? Were they used to birth a whole bunch of more succubi? Were they turned into breeding stock? We probably don't want to know. I sent out more of my clones in order to attack the monsters on sight. They failed to do so. The succubi dodged their attacks and charmed the clones, robbing them of all their willpower. Even attacking them from a distance with aura balls didn't prove to be useful. The succubi weren't only good in charming my clones, they were incredibly agile and easily dodged the aura balls. They were even able to charm my clones from a distance, so it was very hard for my clones to get close to them. The aura balls were fast and powerful, but easy to predict. The charm attacks didn't do any direct damage. The succubi had to only look into the eyes of my clones from a distance. Most of my clones didn't even have a single chance to attack before they lost the will to fight. I ordered my clones to close their eyes to prevent them from being charmed. But that also didn't work out very well. It just made it easier for the succubi to dodge my clones and kiss them, which also charmed them. I wasn't sure, but I suspected that even a light caress was enough to charm my clones. Sounds like your clones are very easily taken over. Well, put on a bicycle helmet so they can't kiss you. And spiky armor so they don't want to hug you. Then again, you are trying to show up and just straight up murder them all, I guess. I guess morality isn't exactly on our side either. Just like, hey look, a bunch of things, let's murder them. Yay! I decided to retreat for the time being. Fighting them with closed eyes was probably the way to go. This way the succubi had to get close to charm them. Unfortunately, my clones weren't good enough to fight with closed eyes. Yet. Didn't we have some kind of super senses? The succubi were experts in advancing on their prey without getting hit. And with closed eyes, it was even harder for my clones to land a hit. I ordered my clones to fight each other blindfolded for the next few weeks. I also wanted them to improve the aura ball. Clearly, the aura balls were always fired in a straight line. This made it easy to dodge them as long as the opponent saw their initial flying direction. Longer distance? The longer the distance, the easier to dodge them. But what if it were possible for the aura balls to change direction when fired? This would surely weaken the impact. Why? Why would it weaken the impact? Is there a reason it would weaken the impact to turn them into homing missiles? It would improve the chances to hit the targets, which was seriously needed against the succubi. While my clones were occupied, I went back to Spacedom to continue my research on the warp gate. My research inside Spacedom still had a long way to go. While there were plans on how to use wormholes with the warp engine, and how to create the warp engine, there was no info on how to create a wormhole itself. The humans back then had focused on using the existing wormholes, because creating one for themselves had not been possible. However, they did not have my powers of creation. Their possibilities were infinitely more limited than mine. I was confident I could create a wormhole by myself. I just had to find out how. The best way to do it was to visit an existing wormhole, so I traveled to the nearest one using Spacedom. With my aura and ability to create air, I was able to go out into space without any spacesuit to inspect the wormholes more thoroughly. Unfortunately, I didn't wear anything to protect me from radiation, and a black hole spat a beam of gamma death into me. Sorry, I'll stop adding to it. Alright, let's see. They were enormous and sucked in everything nearby, similar to black holes, but without the high density. Going near a black hole would probably kill me. You think? While a wormhole would merely transport me elsewhere. Of course, that could end up being really bad as well. I wouldn't want to be lost in space. Even with my ability to survive, who knows whether I would ever find my way back to spacedom. I didn't want to risk that, so I had to keep my distance. I spent the next few months by the wormhole. You can throw shadow clones at it. Going outside every day to observe and investigate the wormhole. I would then return to spacedom and attempt to create my own small wormhole. And in a horrible accident, I sucked the entire ship through a tiny hole. It was horrible. Now I'm lost in the middle of space with no devices to find my way. What? I don't think it's a good idea to practice making wormholes inside your spaceship. I think you should practice them someplace well away from your spaceship, so if things go horribly wrong, you don't break it. 'Cause, let's face it, you do not know how to build a new spacedom if it breaks. And you need that thing. You need its computers, you need its knowledge, you really should have taken all your clones and just tried to memorize all the important stuff and build a couple more. By now you can make enough stuff to do it. I was able to make progress with it, but only very little. It took me 2 whole years until I finally produced my first stable results. I created too many wormholes, which I named warp gates. You already called them warp gates. You've already been calling them warp gates, haven't you? I thought you did. A few meters apart from each other, using my mini warp engine, I strapped a stone to the engine and let it run through the warp gates. The stone disappeared from one warp gate and appeared to the next one. Sadly, it didn't work perfectly, as the stone broke into pieces shortly after being transported. It was far from fit for myself and other... Well, they're pretty high level. They can take a little damage. You're not gonna wuss out, are ya? Go through the horrible Blender teleporter. Go ahead, stick your arm on through. It's fine. But it was my first success, and I could improve on it better now that it was stable. I confirmed that it was possible to create my own warp gate, and I was in a static moment for sure. And I was in a static moment. It was great. I became a moment, and I was ecstatic. Not many people can claim to have become a moment. I had already... We're magical. We can become moments if we want to. It had already been 2 years since I'd left my clones to improve themselves, so I went back to check on them. The results were good. Now they were able to fight each other while blindfolded. So could my fencing instructor. It took you 2 years, with millions, or however many you have, to do that? Good grief. And could feel where the other clones were to predict their movements. They could react to each other's moves really well. When I got them to shoot a bending aura ball, it also looked good. My fencing instructor did not know how to make bending aura balls, so I have no basis for how long it would take to learn to do that. They could easily hit a moving target with the aura ball. They still had to bend the aura ball from launch, so it wasn't possible to control it after it was fired. Yet. But it was still a good improvement for usability. Now the opponents didn't know for sure anymore. Was it a straight aura ball, or was it a curve ball? Yeah, it's basically a baseball thing. They basically learned how to be pitchers. Good job. I was pleased yet again. With a new aura ball and my improved ability to fight while blindfolded, I sent my clones back to fight the succibi. But they sucked. While my clones did better than before, and once in a while even managed to hit them with a bending horror ball, they didn't do any real damage. Bending horror balls barely scratched the monsters when they did collide, rendering them useless at that point. While in close combat, the succubi still dodged my clones with ease, and if they got a lucky hit on a succubus, they just took the hit and caught my clones, kissing them and draining their energy. Oh, suddenly they're draining their energy. I thought it drained their will to fight, but now they're D&D succubi that do level drain. Ah! This instantly healed the succubi, while making my clones powerless. The succubi were just too strong. I didn't see any hope of defeating them anytime soon. This was after 2 years of training. While I was sure that my clones would be able to beat them eventually, at this rate it would take too long for my tastes. Rebirth time. I thought about it for a while, and came to the conclusion that I had to rebirth once more. You had to think for a while on that, huh? How could I get stronger? I have this thing I can do that makes me exponentially stronger, but the idea of losing all my monuments again was a little disheartening, but I was sure to catch up to my current power level faster than it would take me for my clones to defeat the succubi, or for me to defeat Lama. From my experience up until now, defeating a stronger kind of monster proved to be a good way to prepare for my... No, it's not. It really isn't. It's a good way to gather divinity, but training is just way better. I was quite sure to lose against Lima if my clones could not defeat all the succubi without much hassle. Sadly, my new warp gates were far from finished, so I still had to use Space Stim for all my traveling needs. I rebirthed on my way back to Zeppelin. This way I had no risk while in my weakened state, and my clones could start to train a little until I arrived. Both against one another and against weak monsters I kept inside Space Stim. To my surprise, I felt a much larger surge of power than my previous rebirths. I could feel my fighting power rising much faster than ever before. Last time I rebirthed, all the power of my old monuments had been lost, but this time I felt that there was still something left. Was it because I had upgraded them? It was not like I felt the same power from my monuments, but my basic capability was much greater than any rebirth before now. My ability to create new monuments was also gone. I had to defeat Diana again. Although, with my newly increased potential, it was finally easy to do so. I basically defeated everyone that I had challenged, up to Diana, with only a single finger flick. How? How? Excuse me, you flew to Zeppelin. You have to ride a slow-moving... well, okay, it's a really fast spaceship, but still, it's long distance. Then you have to fly to Gaia. Then you have to fly to... But you beat them all with a single finger flick. So, you stood on top of your spaceship, went, ha-ha! And it hit them on all the different worlds and knocked them all out at once. It's pretty impressive, I must say. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. Such a big difference compared to the first time I had fought her. I almost couldn't believe how weak they'd become. Or rather, how strong I had become. After defeating Diana, I went back to Fortitude to build a few monuments. While I'd vastly grown in power compared to the first time I fought them, I should never underestimate my opponents. I was still weaker than before my rebirth, and sure to lose against the likes of Freya and Poseidon without the power of my monuments. The amount of training I had spent after my latest rebirth was much less than before, after all. Even with a much higher potential, I still had to train considerably to improve myself beyond my previous maximum power. Then I went on to fight a few more gods until I defeated Freya. I already had some trouble when fighting against Freya, so this is where I stopped for more training before challenging Poseidon once again. Of course, this also meant that my clones would surely lose against the succubi in their current state, but I was confident that this would change soon enough. I gave my clones instructions to continue training and to build more monuments and upgrades. Then I went back to the wormhole to improve my warp gate. The last time I had researched for 2 years until I got some results, but this time I only needed to improve on it. This meant adding some protection for the stones and creating larger warp gates. Next time, the warp gates in Lima. And I'm gonna go do other things. Maybe I'll get back in an hour and can give them 10 more minutes. Maybe not. We shall see. Clunk. And clunk. Roll still isn't doing much over here. Oh well. Gotta get these up at some point. But the big deal is all the monuments and their upgrades. It ends up being 4 upgrades for the first one, because mountains, and 3 upgrades for the Mystic Gardens, because forests. I've never been 100% sure if one more mountain wouldn't be good, but, and, you know, less statues, less mighty statues. But, this is the balance that I came to. And it works. It's highly effective. So, till next time and every time, this is Hadriex signing off. Bye. So, I'm a little bit late coming back, but not super late. I mean, you know, I lost 15 minutes-ish. It's fine. So we come along, we scoop this up. Bonk, 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 bonk. Zzt. Zzt. Okay, then I reach over. Oh, I didn't have my forests in play yet. Well, fixed. Okay. Crunch. Reach over here. Oops. Thunk. Thunk. And as you can see, everything is perfect except that stupid river and a little bit of spare change on these, which is, like I said, that's just what I ended up having to do. And now, this is an annoying thing about this setup. While it's perfect because it has all the pieces ready, I can just sit down, I can just go dump in my monuments, do this, boom, I'm ready to rebirth and move on. I'm not going to get this thing. I'm not going to get Susanna O down. I should have spent a minute doing that first. But anyway, whatever. I got, you know, I can just rebirth right now at this speed. It's a little bit obnoxious that lost 15 minutes could have been put into rocks to build a few more mighty statues, but it's fine. It's not going to make a difference in the end. Here we've got the reason that you don't want villages and other things, you want to stop at Artemis, is because if villages were an option, it would try to make villages, and it would mess with your stuff up here. It would start making things, using up water and air and, you know, stuff that you need. It'll throw you off. So, when I do my rebirth here, same setup every time. Gotta deal with that. Sometimes I think about going a little further in different ways, but it's yeah, I tested this and that. This has been just the best I've been able to come up with. And there. All the way up to forest, and then it'll just stop. Now, unfortunately, I have to come... Now, I don't have to sit here for 10 minutes. I can wander off as long as I come back in, you know, eventually. Like, I don't even have to necessarily come in 10 minutes. I can come back in 15 minutes. It's still fine. Whatever. But I do come back, put my guys on Power Surge, set these to the campaign for an hour, and, you know, we're in good shape at that point. We're only a minute in, and we've already got, 252% rebirth multiplier. Yeah. And this pretty much just repeats a couple of times, and then I've got my No Divinity Challenge. Right then. And we'll go ahead and clean up here. Our gorilla becomes more powerful. By a little tiny amount. It's a real shame I don't get to feed anybody during these. This is one of the 0 runs. It's fine. I didn't need any GP anyway. Not really. Alright, so since we're on our PC... we'll see exactly how this clocks. I mean, it took me a few seconds to hit skills. So, we'll see how long it takes on this. Oops. Shouldn't be long. Yay, idling to rule the gods is so much fun. I get to play with bars. Why doesn't every idle game do this? This is what we come for. Yeah, I'm a little salty. But I'm still playing this stupid-ass minigame to power up. Because I don't feel right if I don't get this up to 500% at least. Hey, at least I convinced myself I didn't need to take it all the way to 1,000 every time. Even though it means I'm only at half power, it's just too much of a pain. It's okay, though. I'll get it better. Eventually. Hopefully. Let me see. Do we have all of our buildings? Or all of our creations? Yes, so we can make all of our monuments. Donk, 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 donk. Zeus down. Okay. Excellent. Now you can just do whatever you like. It doesn't really matter now. We got the important parts. Alright. So. Any second now. By which I mean quite a few seconds from now. I'm still ticked at myself for using up that chocolate, but it's okay. I can make that mistake a few more times, and I'll still have plenty of chocolate for Goldie. I'll have a new lucky draw in just 15 hours. And then I can open it up and find another 1 GP. The excitement. I'm not worried about saving them up because I know that I can amass them, like, if I want to do item campaigns, like, seriously do item campaigns. I know I could amass a crap ton of them. And it's actually something I'm seriously considering. When I finish all the things that are currently on my to-do list, like these divinity challenges, no divinity challenges, I might very well try to set myself up for something longer. Yeah. It's not 136. Looks like it's going to end up being 133 and a half, or maybe 134. So what this should leave me at is, actually... Let's see. Let me not make a prediction. I mean, I should... alright, I should end up at Amaterasu. I should be able to beat Odin, but, I'm wondering... I don't think I botched anything this run, right? Yeah. Yeah, I should be able to make it there, right? We'll know in a second. Any second. Hurry up! And I wish there was a way to speed these up. Come on. Oh my gosh. What is taking so long? They say a watched pot never boils. I guess there we go. Okay. So, bonk, bonk, bonk. Unleash might. There we go. Excellent. Yep. Up to Amaterasu. And, so this is what I was talking about with it's always one more run. It's always these last three and then the Overlord. I can never seem to get around that. So, if I could cut through this many more, that's the difference between cutting off an hour and a half off of this whole thing. I could be done in less than 4 hours, if only. But that is just way too much to chew off. So, that's why I end up just going, I'll just do GP campaigns. Because the level up and multipliers were not doing it. Not doing it. Anyway. And I still wonder, well, what if I spent an extra 20 minutes at the end of each run? And then I did... No, it just doesn't work out. This seems to be about as good as I can get. And it's pretty good. 5.5 hours, it's pretty good. In each and every run, I get a little bit stronger. Just a smidge. Oops, crap. And that's me making one of the easy-to-make mistakes. Now, when I walk away, I have to make sure I come back before it finishes, or, yeah, it'll run down into stupid stuff. I make it a mistakes. It's fine. It's just annoying. It actually isn't that big a deal. It doesn't actually eat more time. It just means that I have to fuss with this a little bit when I'm making my monuments. It's fine, though.